Over the last few years, private equity firms have moved in to ruin what was the last type of affordable housing in America: mobile home parks. Now, numerous outlets over the last few years have documented an increase in corporate landlords buying up mobile home parks and then driving up the rents while also allowing the parks to deteriorate. For example, one park in Lockport, New York, was bought in 2018, which led to multiple rent increases, while the new owners ignored conditions like contaminated drinking water and sewage seeping up into the bathtubs of residents. Residents complained, but oftentimes they didn't know who to complain to, and when they did know who to complain to, their complaints were ignored. So now these people, again, they usually live on fixed incomes, they're disabled, and yet these companies came in and took advantage of them. They're getting hosed. In fact, it got so bad that back in May of 2022, about half the residents had launched a rent strike, which prompted the owners to not fix conditions. No, Cook Properties actually sent out about 30 eviction notices. So Jeremy Ward, one of the residents there, had said at the time, quote, "All they care about is raising the rent because they only care about the money." Now, this guy was even fined $10 for using a leaf blower to try to clean up the area. He said, "Look, I'm disabled. You guys aren't doing your job, and I get a violation?" That's the reality for people that are living in these mobile home parks. It's one of the examples, many examples, of people that are living there that have been in places that have been bought out by private equity firms. In fact, Benjamin Bellis, an assistant attorney general in Iowa, said, quote, "These industries, including mobile home park manufacturing industry, keep touting these parks, these mobile homes as affordable housing, but it's not affordable." They said complaints have gone up 100-fold since these out-of-state investors started buying up the parks a few years ago. Quote, "You're putting people in a snare and a trap where they have no ability to defend themselves. You went from an environment where you had a local owner or a manager who took care of things as they needed fixing to where you had people who were looking at a cost-benefit analysis for how to get the penny squeezed lowest." Wow. You combine it with an idea that we can just keep raising the rent, and these people can't leave. Yeah, it's an incredibly hostile business, way of doing business. I mean, it's horrible. Now, Jordan McCarthy, president and CEO of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, said about a fifth of mobile home parks, around 800,000, had been purchased in the past 8 years by institutional investors. Now, since that report from 2022, it's actually gotten worse, as there have been workshops for people, for investors, to teach them how to buy up these mobile home parks and then let them basically rot while you collect the rent. According to the Manufacturing Housing Tracker, which tracks mobile home parks owned by private equity in 2024, 11 private equity firms owned 1,114 MHPs across the country. And one of the states that actually has the highest level is the state of Michigan, which ranks second for private equity-owned parks. PESP Housing Director Jordan Nash told MLive, "There has been a notable increase in private equity firms buying manufactured housing parks. They've definitely been much more aggressive in terms of acquisition over the last decade." And of course, the results there are disastrous. Residents of private equity owned MHPs have reported rent increases of as much as 60% after private equity owned landlords took over their parks, as well as bringing in or allowing egregious maintenance issues to happen. In multiple corporate-owned manufacturing housing communities, residents endured frequent water shutoffs, and at least in one cases, have had to pay for undrinkable water, along with sewage backups, water main breaks, poor infrastructure, and the refusal to make repairs. So this is absolutely unacceptable, all right? And I know there's a lot of people that make jokes about, you're about people living in trailer parks, right? No, it's unacceptable. Here we have people who are disabled, they're low income, and they're being squeezed by these giant corporate landowners that include Blackstone, the Carlyle Group, and Apollo Global Management. And look, these companies, everything private equity touches falls apart, because that's the point, to squeeze every last dollar out of it until it is a dead husk. Okay? The people, again, as I mentioned, oftentimes they don't know who owns the park. And despite the name, these people, they can't just pick up their homes and leave. The mobile homes, not exactly as mobile as you would think. Okay? And in Michigan, there are some bills that have been targeting that, have been looking to change what's going on. For example, proposed legislation would increase licensing fees and prevent unlicensed owners from coming in and collecting rent. It would also require something called the Manufactured Housing Commission, made up of members appointed by the governor, to review and approve any lot rent increases management companies want to implement, and would work with local governments to conduct park inspections to make sure that they are up to code, that they have water, that they don't have sewage backups, that they don't have trash piling up because these companies don't want to actually pay for these things. So now it's a start, okay? For me, though, I think private equity should never be in charge of housing, period. Why? Because private equity is only there for one thing. It's there to make a profit. And they make a profit in housing on the ability to continue to raise rents. That's it. Without actually doing things like maintenance that they should be doing. Just like healthcare. I believe housing is a human right. Everybody should have it. Everyone should be able to have it, and it should be of good quality. You see what's going on in both healthcare and in these mobile home parks. I don't see good quality. I think it would be far better to ensure these things by, yes, even nationalizing housing to some extent, than allowing these giant private equity firms to come in and do exactly what they're doing now, driving up prices, squeezing out as much profit as they can, and letting these people live in just completely squalid, intolerable conditions. That's what we're allowing happen right now with these private equity companies. And again, we've seen it not just in business, right? Red Lobster, for example. The reason Red Lobster has failed is because of private equity coming in and bankrupting it. You have so many people that have lost their jobs as a result of that. And now you have people, in this case, it's not about jobs, it's about where people are actually able to live and to have a home. Because if they don't have a home, well, they end up on the street. If they're on the street, well, guess what? A lot of places that have criminalized homelessness. And so that creates an even bigger problem where you have homeless people now priced out of what should have been affordable housing, okay, ending up in the jails to then become cheap prison labor. I think maybe that's the end result of all of this, okay? Cheap prison labor for these giant corporations. It's hard not to believe that there's a conspiracy going on, that there's some sort of collusion between all these different companies, but you don't even have to go that far. It's just a result of the unfettered capitalism that we have in this country, and few protections, if any protections, for workers and for people who are poor and desperate and on the margins of society. We need to do something to protect them, and I think the biggest thing would be to get private equity, ban private equity from getting into housing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.